on your enter time screen. So that's where you land most of the time when you log in. But what we're referring to, and I know it's tiny, is start. And the number that is associated with the start, in this case, is 0, but that number should reflect your start from whenever we launched InSite. So you had if you were already here, you had a balance of sick and vacation or personal, well, personal doesn't carry over. So comp, vacation, sick. If you had any balance when we launched InSite, that's what your start number is. The used number is what you've used since we started InSite. So those numbers, we're actually working with InSite to change this to reflect maybe what we're doing in the year, not what we've done for 2 years. You know, that's kind of misleading. But that's what that start number is, and the used number. Sometimes you will have in here a current hours, or when you're on your request screen, you might see something that says current hours. Those are hours that you have requested to take off, and your supervisor has approved that. So those are current hours, and they are deducted from the available balance when you request it. When you actually use it, whatever's on your timesheet at that time, that is ultimately what is deducted, but until you use it, it deducts what you asked for. And then an open request is you have requested it, but it has not been approved by your supervisor yet. So that, if it's in an open request, it is not deducted from your available balance. So that's just kind of a rundown of what you're seeing here.
Were you ready for one?
Yeah. Yeah. So when you go to request time, here's a snapshot of what you would see. If you had any submitted and approved requests, it would be an open request, or it would be a current hours, and anything that you've requested but not approved yet would be in open hours, open requests, and then your available balance. So for today, we're talking about mainly vacation. And when your anniversary comes around, you can have 3 weeks that you carry over. So if you work 35 hours a week, this number shouldn't be any bigger than 105. If you work 37 and a half, that number should not be over 112.5. And if you work 40 hours a week, that's 120. So when your anniversary comes around, you should either be at or below 105, 112.50, or 120. I know that sometimes that can feel like, you know, for those that are over, that's a punishment. This is not a punishment. This is to follow the policy that we've had for years. And it really helps us stay within our policies. So we have developed a tool that we are going to use to help everyone figure out where they're going to be at their anniversary. And we're going to start rolling this out as in the order of anniversaries coming up, but it shouldn't take us too long to get through to everybody. Yes?
This
Where does anniversaries go? Is it the day you started or 6 months your probation period?
We have lots of anniversary dates in fiscal, but for this, it's the date that you were hired. So from the day that you were hired, that's your anniversary for vacation.
And when your increase?
If you're on an alternate step increase,
Or not necessarily that, but when your vacation increases, is that?
So like you accrue, so if you're, say you have 2 years of service credit. Now, if you worked somewhere publicly prior to here, your date that your service credit began is sooner. So that only affects the rate with which you accumulate vacation is what your service date start is. But as far as the anniversary date where you need to be concerned with not having more than the 3 weeks would be your start date with Fulton County Health Department.
Okay.
Yeah. Great question.
we keep track of those adjusted service dates and put that, so that it bumps you at the right time. So for this employee, they work 35 hours a week, 70 hours a pay period. The balance as of, that's the day that we look at it. So if we're looking, so this one I looked at on the 29th. The hire date or the anniversary date is going, so they started February 24th, somewhere in the prior, but their anniversary is February 24th of 25. What is different about this vacation policy versus the old one is, here we're taking into consideration what you're going to earn from the date that we look at it until your anniversary date. So we're going to help you factor in all of that time that you're gonna earn so you know exactly how much you need to use. So from January 29th to February 24th, and through the end of that pay period, that includes the 24th. So February 24th, that pay period actually ends on March 5th. So we're gonna take it out through the end of that pay period instead of cutting it off right on the 24th, because that gets messy. So this gives us a solid point in time that we're gonna look at on March 5th. This individual earned 6.2 hours per pay period, and there were three pay periods between January 29th and February 24th. So this person in those 3 pay periods is gonna earn an additional 18.6. InSite balance was 121.31. They had nothing in current hours, so they didn't have any future requests. That gives us a total hours available of 139.91. They're allowed to carry 105. So their overage on their anniversary date, if nothing changes, would be 34.91. That means between now and their anniversary, through March 5th, they need to use 5 days. 35 hours or 5 days of vacation. I know that's a lot of numbers, but does that make sense to you? Okay. If you wanna go to the next one, I'll just, so the next, this is the same person, same situation, but if they had current hours, so let's say they had 35 hours of vacation scheduled for August. It's great that that's in there and supervisor knows, hey, this staff person's gonna be off, but that's not going to be used before anniversary date. So we have to add that back in. So this person actually would have to use 10 days, because this is not guaranteed that it's gonna be used. It's planned, and 99% will probably make it, but something could happen and they don't. So if we don't account for it, we're putting you behind the 8 ball the next year. Does that make sense? So we're planning to do one of these for everybody, starting with the earliest anniversaries first, and then moving on, so that you have an idea and you can start planning your vacation to end up with no more than the 3 weeks at your anniversary. And that'll include all your accruals and everything that you use is obviously going to affect this, but at a point in time, you're gonna have a target to work towards. So hopefully that is helpful. Is any questions? Yeah.
So you said it's the initial hire date versus like, so I was hired in at nutrition 1, that was 1 day, and then I went to nutrition 2. Is it that day or the first?
It's when, sorry,
No, go ahead.
it's when you first started here at the health department.
Really small question. So, all the information looks great and it's very understandable. Is the information that's going to be given to us, is it going to be given in like a Word document like that, so something static, or is it going to be something that, like an Excel sheet that will change over time? I was just curious.
What I plan to provide would be static.
Okay.
For us, this is actually in Excel, and there are formulas in it to help us make sure we calculate that. But I plan to give it in a static format, but.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And if you're out there and you are one that those 3 weeks is never a problem, thank you. And you have a good life-work balance. So, there's no penalties for those of you that don't have, this as a concern. Just want to put that there too. All right.